Man, Chiefs advance, Lions advance. The coaching carousel is getting interesting. Really excited. Possibility about Keaton Talk Sports, possibility about him coming on Friday. Oh, man, I think I said that Green Bay could beat Dallas and that there would be at least 2 upsets, but I could be wrong. You did say that. Keys is on fire, folks. Guys, start out the show strong. And by the way, Keys is look at me. By the way, I went 4-2 in wild card round straight up and against the spread. One of the games I got wrong was the Rams. I'm not sure if Lions fans are excited or not. CB Products, what's up, Dan? Oh, man. Little Higgins thumbnail. CB, what are the odds Higgins stays there in Cincinnati? That's an interesting thing. And during the offseason, I can't wait to talk. There's several teams I'm kind of eyeballing this offseason. Bengals are one of them. Man, how about those Lions? That was easily the best game of the week. I was going to kind of go in order, but let's talk Lions, Rams first. Am I just nuts? But when I watched that game, I looked how good Puka Noda is, and I kept on thinking, who's interested in Cooper Kupp? You know, to be honest, I mean, I think he'd be great fit in a team like Kansas City, but that's kind of what that's kind of the way I feel. I got an energy drink here. I don't know why I'm drinking it. I really don't need it. Yeah, great game. Great game. Let me ask you Lions fans here. Please, Lions, let me know. How weird is it that you're cheering for the Packers next week? How weird is it? Please let me know. Raven 76 B-Boys, salute Detroit Lions fans. I'm happy for you guys for the win. By the way, that's going to be the first game that pops up in the division round. That's going to be a good one. Ravens, Texans. If you haven't yet, by the way, in the description below, I believe it's in the description below. It should be in the description below. Yeah, there's my link to the picks video. So do watch it. So. Man, Eagles fell off a cliff hard. It's kind of funny. To the best of my knowledge, there's no official word yet, but there's going to be changes in the Eagles organization. It's kind of funny because their offensive coordinator is interviewing for head coaching jobs, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles fire him. They have to make some changes on the defensive side of the ball. Mike McCarthy has got to be on the OM. Perry, what's up, brother? OM. Oh, hot seat. Okay, Mike McCarthy. I'm kind of looking at the head coaching candidates, and I just don't see Belichick going to Dallas. But the number one candidate I think that should be considered should be Vrabel. I think you got to get a guy who's going to come in there and say, hey, it goes through me. And I think as long as Jerry Jones has his hands in the pot, it's really not going to work out. Don't get me wrong. Like as a businessman, I mean, this is a guy who bought the Dallas Cowboys at the time. It was record $250 million. Last time I saw it was worth $6 billion. As a businessman, as an owner, as an entrepreneur, is there anybody better than Jerry Jones? No, but I think he should take a step back. If I could get Vrabel in as the head coach and say, listen, I'll give you a little bit of player control, that would be the move I would make. But is he on the hot seat? Absolutely. Perry Sirianni did too, yeah. I think Higgins is staying because there's talk of letting go Hubbard and Tyler Boyd is going to leave. Yeah. Hubbard makes sense. You got one of my major draft crushes in Miles Murphy. He's a guy that I'm going to be eyeballing players out that could really explode next year. Miles Murphy's one of them. Don't be surprised Miles Murphy goes off for something crazy like 15 sacks next year. I loved him coming out of college, and with the defensive production dropping down, as high as I am on Lou Amaruno, your defensive coordinator, I don't think he's getting a head coaching job. I think he deserves one. But yeah, Miles Murphy's guy, I'm kind of circling as a guy that could just explode next year. He's a guy I loved coming out of the draft. Great job getting him. I think it was at 27. I've been telling people that fluke win in Kansas City was Sirianni's Super Bowl. You have been, and you were kind of harsh and critical on him. I was not, and I think that I think it says something, I mean, because after that game and after talking to all that trash to the Chiefs fans, his team just fell off a cliff. Yeah, Perry, the NFC East just died in the playoffs. Puka Nacua. I'm gonna star this. I'm always gonna get it wrong. Puka. I'm gonna start calling him Puka. I'll never get the name right. Best player on the field. And I'm looking at two Hall of Famers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's about ready to get a boatload of money. So here's a few things. Here, let me ask you this one, Pride. How crazy is it to cheer for Green Bay? How do you handle Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra? Because here's what I would do. This offseason, I would just back up the Brinks truck and try to assign Amon-Ra something crazy. You remember that deal you gave for Calvin Johnson? At the time, I don't think there was a wide receiver that made over $60 million combined, and you gave him like an 8-year, $112 million deal, and then there was a fight at the end because he retired with some. Anyway, I would seriously, I say this without joking, I would offer him a 6-year, $200 million deal. I would just back up the Brinks truck, and then I would play hardball with Sewell. I would, 5th year franchise, maybe franchise again, because you can't pay them both. You can't pay them both market value. You can't. So you have to play hardball with one of them. I would back up the Brinks truck for Amon-Ra. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being facetious. I would offer him a 6-year, $200 million deal. That would make him the highest paid wide receiver in football. It would be by a significant margin. I would reset the market at the wide receiver position, and I would keep him there. And by the way, that 6 year, that would lock him up. I'd have like a way that maybe he can get out for the last 2 for 100 or something like that. But kind of getting ahead of myself. But I'm kind of curious how you would handle that. I think we could beat the Bucs or Eagles. Your favorite. The one thing I'm going to ask you Lions fans to do is don't do this. Nobody wants to see us here. Nobody wants to see it. No. You're the darlings of the NFL. You're the favorite. You're the team everybody wants to see right now. What's the best move for Cincy, though? Plenty with 2 number 1 wideouts that are no longer in the playoffs. Just saying. Yeah, I think Boyd's going to be a free agent. He's the type of guy, like, if in an affordable contract, I'd love to see here. I love Tyler Boyd, one of my favorite players. And Hubbard's a guy I would also love to see here in Kansas City, but I think defensive ends, we got a surplus. But, yeah. Detroit has to score more than 3 points to be Tampa. Yeah. Got out to an early start. Out of all the games, BD Buster, man, I feel best about the Lions winning. I really do. The matchup kind of favors it favors Detroit because the only way Tampa really wins this game is by running the ball, and they're bad at it, and Detroit's good at it, stop and run. Detroit does give up some passing yards, but the thing is I feel like the Rams are a better team than the Bucs. I don't even think that's this should be a win. You know, I predicted, if you watch my video, spoiler alert, going to the NFC Championship game, and hopefully it's in Detroit. The 49ers should beat them, but at this point, the Packers could beat them. Perry, you're 100% correct. That's going to be a fun game. These two coaches go all the way back to Atlanta. These two guys know each other well. They run a very similar type of offense. So One Pride says Vrabel or Bill will go to Dallas. I don't think Belichick would go there, but I could see Vrabel. Cincinnati, yeah, Keys. I wouldn't be surprised if they go that way in the draft. Jimmy! Oh, man, welcome, Jimmy. Happy playoffs, everybody, for crossing his fingers for a Kinsey, Detroit. Oh, God, I would love that. The NFL would love that. I think that's secretly what the NFL really wants is Kansas City, Detroit. I think the NFL secretly wants Kansas City and Detroit. Exactly. I agree. I'll stick by my coaching list. I'll stick by my coaching list I made last week. Belichick or Vrabel in Philly. If the Bills lose Sunday, the other goes there. That's what I do anyway. And by the way, Keys has been adamant Belichick would be a great fit in Buffalo. And I think he's right. I think he's got something. I think Buffalo's going to stick by McDermott, but it makes sense. Let's see what the Bills do. I mean, if the Bills lose again to Kansas City, it's going to be tough. Jerry Jones. Well, the only reason I would like Vrabel to go there is I think Vrabel, if he goes there and he takes the job, he has to have some sort of player control. And I think that they have to work it out. I think he has to say, look, I'm going to bring a defense that's going to be more physical and tough against the run, less athletic, less big names. And you gotta let me do my thing. And it wouldn't surprise me if you got a guy like Vrabel, he comes in and he gets rid of a lot of those defensive players for draft picks and brings in a bunch of guys that, you know, guys like maybe me and you don't know as well, and builds a more physical, tough style of defense. So. You're going to hear it here first. Aaron Glenn will be. You've been saying that. And I think it's a great. I think it's a great call if it works. I don't, because I think there's several candidates better. That's just my opinion. But listen, man. You said it. I'm going to hold you to it. I secretly. Well, actually, that's one thing I was going to kind of lead off with, but I'm just. I'm just reading through the comments. So, but Bill Belichick is meeting with the Atlanta Falcons, and in my opinion, it is the best available coaching job. So, by the way, Jimmy, as soon as you said this, I just went right to it. Mike Evans, DraftKings 65.5. 65.5. That's actually a really good number. That's a really good number, 65.5. That I would probably take that, even though I don't think he did that last week. I would take that. Yeah. Raven 76B more. Puka is that dude. If I'm the Rams, I really see what I can get for Cooper Kupp. Is their team that wants to give you a number one? You may be able to get like a same deal that Seattle got for Leonard Williams, like at second and the fifth. That would be a good move. Sirianni is like Happy Gilmore. Oh, this is so awesome, God. Oh, God. Keys said he can't come on Friday, but I'm so disappointed. But Keys says Sirianni is like Happy Gilmore at the beginning of his golfing career, entertaining and fun if it's your style, maturity level. But at some point, Happy's got to learn to putt and be controlled. You're right. They just fell apart. You can't re-sign both. You got to sign one or the other. Can't sign them both the same offseason. You can't give them both the same contract. One Pride. Can't do it. And the reason why you can't do it is if you sign both to market value in the same season, you have to let some guys go. The only way you sign them both is if you get rid of Goff. because those two guys by themselves, the way the current salary cap is set up, if you sign those two for what they're asking for, especially Amon-Ra, who was a 4th-round pick, he's going to say, look, you got me for pennies, now you got to pay me. Look at the Cooper Kupp deal. That's kind of like what you're looking at, except you got to up that up several steps. But those two, if you sign those two for market value, just where the salary cap is, and I'm talking this offseason, the way the salary cap is, you blow it out of water. The only way you sign them both is if you get rid of Goff and some other guys. So I would re-sign Amon-Ra, and that 6-year, $200 million deal. It's a long deal, so you prorate the signing bonus. And then you have to play hardball with Sewell. That's how I would handle it. You can't sign them both. You got to sign one or the other. I would sign Amon-Ra, and I would do it now, because when Justin Jefferson signs his contract, then Amon-Ra is going to be looking at that and saying, yeah, but he got 1st-round money. I didn't. And Amon-Ra really kind of, I think has a little more pull there. I think with Sewell, you could play hardball with Sewell. And I think you have a little bit more leniency, but with Amon-Ra, I would back up the Brinks truck. Can't do both. Our defense is still our weakest link. Ben Johnson needs to call a better game. Second half, but I mean, give the Rams a lot of credit. I mean, here's the thing about Tampa Bay. They have a good defense. But their offense is extremely one-dimensional, and they have some issues in the interior of their offensive line. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun game, but I would be really shocked if you didn't win. I'm just saying, imagine an NFL football player and your head coach acts like an entitled 8-year-old who picks fights with a high schooler and then goes running to mommy when they put. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, after that game, the team just really fell apart. Lions can sign both. They have to move them from Decker. I don't think they can. I mean, unless both decide to, like, one thing that people always think is that their team can get a hometown discount, and they'd be surprised when they find out they really can't. You can't sign them both. Yeah, and the only way you sign them both if you move on from Goff, and I don't see how you do that. So it'll be interesting. Raven 76B more says the problem is in Dallas. Thank God we have a No, you don't. I've often said that I think the front office of Baltimore is probably like the gold standard there. But yeah, Jerry Jones just takes. Keep in mind, listen, if I ran a team, I'm looking at Jerry Jones and I want to do it the same way. I mean, he bought that team for $250 million. I think in '89, $6 billion today. The Jones family, when he passes away, the Jones family, like for the next 4 generations, are going to be like, the top, whatever, 2% of the world, 1%. So he's done a great job as a businessman, but if he takes a step back, to win more. Agreed, Decker. The question is, do we keep Goff, Sewell, and Sun God aren't going anywhere? I'm telling you how I would do it. I would back the Brinks truck up to the Sun God immediately, and I play hardball with Sewell, go to 5th year, and then franchise, and then you have to figure out what you want to do with Goff. If you want to move to Hendon Hooker, get rid of Decker, then maybe you can get both. But if I'm telling you exactly, and like I said, I sound crazy to somebody outside of Detroit, but I would give the Sun God a 6-year, $200 million deal. I would reset the market, lock him up for the remainder of his prime years. And the reason why I do that is because in 3 years from now, that deal is not going to look that good. By the way, if you offered Amon-Ra, if you offered him a 6-year, $200 million deal, he might go, I don't know if I really want to stay in Detroit that long. But long-term deals are it's kind of risk reward. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Tyron. I don't want to rant too long, but Tyron Smith signed a long-term deal, guaranteed money, but he left a lot of money on the table. It worked out for good for him. His wife's a financial advisor. Some major, it's a company. If I said, you would know who it is, but that's what I would try to do. Is I would try to lock up Amon-Ra long-term and do it immediately, because these wide receiver contracts are just skyrocketing. A $33 million year contract that would reset the market for this year, but then next year, Justin Jefferson's probably going to get 35, or Jamar Chase is going to get 35, maybe even 40. I mean, that's just the way these contracts are going. That's why I try to lock them up long term. With Penei Sewell, he can get what was it? Lane Johnson signed 3 years, 75 a couple of years ago. And McKinley and Jawan Taylor, the Chiefs got 20 million. So he can that's going to be a tough one, because he's probably going to ask for close to 30. Both these guys are going to ask for both the 30. That's why you can't pay them both. I think I saw Perry the Bucks blitz like 75% of passing. Yeah, if they do that, then yeah. And I think that would benefit the Lions, but I was really impressed with the way Tampa played. Right now, Robert, yeah, you have some moves. It's going to be a crazy offseason in Detroit. I'd lock them up long term, and I would do it this season. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of guys work. Is it really possible the NFC Championship is a NFC North trequel, Green Bay and Detroit? Dude, I love it, trequel. Do you think Dan Quinn gets a head coaching job now? I do. And I think he deserves one, to be honest with you. I know he had a bad game against Green Bay. I put the blame on McCarthy and Jerry Jones. I don't put it on Dan Quinn. I don't think it did. I think out of the 7 coaching positions available, I think Dan Quinn should get one of them, but we'll see. I think he should. I said Seattle. I think Seattle's still the best place for him. It makes a lot of sense. There's a good relationship there. I was just reading about it right before I came on. One of the issues that they had was Pete Carroll just had too much power, and he said it wasn't football people that made the decision to let him go. John Schneider, the GM, for the longest time just took a back seat. It kind of sounds like what they wanted to do is because John Schneider wasn't like he was a general manager, but like general manager in quotes. Now he's going to have more control, and it's going to be the standard where, like, the head coach reports to the general manager reports to the owner, where Pete Carroll just, bypassed everything Schneider did and just went straight to the owner. I think that Dan Quinn in Seattle would make the most sense. He's worked with John Schneider before. I think that he could just come in and kind of keep Seattle running. And Seattle's a kind of a middle of the pack team that needs a little tweaking on defense. And I still think that's Dan Quinn's specialty. And then offensively, I'm not sure who the offensive coordinator, I should know this, but I don't know who the offensive coordinator is in Seattle, but I would keep everything in play. Big question is with Seattle is, how do you feel about Geno Smith? But I think Dan Quinn to Seattle still makes the most sense. Taking over the Cowboys would be interesting. I don't see that happening, but it's a possibility. I'm so happy Detroit got Laporta over the Bills or Bengals. I was really afraid those two teams might grab him in the draft. Well, the Bills got Kincaid, who in the long term, it might be just as good, if not better. I think that Laporta went to a great situation there in Detroit. Came in there, replaced Hawkinson, more of a wide receiver than Hawkinson is. Hawkinson's your standard three down guy. Laporte is more of a receiver. Trust me, if Kincaid was available, Detroit would have took Kincaid. Kincaid was the highest rated of the guys. When the way the draft was going, though, I was kind of worried he would go to Cincinnati. But I saw Miles Murphy, because Miles Murphy's the guy that I was like I had a real high grade on him. I thought he could have gone. If you remember the Texans, before they traded up to 3, I think they were like 11 or 12, and they traded to get Will Anderson. I thought that they could have easily taken Murphy at 11, and I think that would have been plan B. Don't be surprised. Miles Murphy could have been on the Houston Texans instead of Will Anderson. I think that was plan B. It's the way it looks like after year 1. So I don't think so. Keys asked, "Do you think Quinn is?" I don't think so. I don't. I think it's a bad game. It might, if he doesn't get a job, you could kind of circle that game, but I don't think so. We need a bunch of O-line in the draft, free agents, or both. And I really think this is the year that you trade out around 1, do what the Rams did, and just stockpile your team full of draft picks. So, yeah. Speaking of Falcons, I see Belichick. Yes, you did. Yeah. And I think this is smart because I'll be honest, of all the coaching positions, we disagreed slightly, but we both agreed Atlanta was a premium position. And the thing is with Atlanta, I look at the Falcons and I'm seeing a team that picks 8th overall in the draft. And I look at what Houston did. They traded next year's 1st and 3rd to move up from 11 to 3. A move that looks like it worked, by the way. Keep in mind, Arizona's going to get some draft picks this year. So you have to figure that out. But when I look at Atlanta, they're just a quarterback away from winning that division. So I'd have no problem giving up 2025 draft capital to move up in this year's draft. And you already have the blueprint because Chicago moved up from 9 to 1. I think it was 9. Maybe it may have been. It was 8 or 9 to 1. I should have this memorized by now, but I don't. It should be 8 or 9. Atlanta picks 8th. So and here's what I'm looking at too, is that I really like this Penix kid out of Washington. If you're picking 8th and you're Atlanta, do you just stand pat and take Penix, and then you have 2 third-round picks and a 2nd-round pick, and there's going to be players around the league that would especially, I'm looking at New England, like almost everybody who's a free agent. I'm kind of like, hey, can I come here? And the defense is set. Like you're good to go. You probably need a pass rusher, maybe 2 in Atlanta, but at 8, you could put Michael Penix on that team, stay at 8. If you want to trade up to, 1, 2, or 3, depending on how things go, you could do that. But to me, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm looking at these teams and like, okay, which one can I win with right now? And the answer is Atlanta. I mean, the answer really is Atlanta. So yeah. And I to me, it makes a lot of sense. I've been having him penciled to Washington, but I saw that earlier today, and I'm like, man, this just makes sense. I got an owner. By the way, do you remember they went all in on former New England staff members? It was like everybody. Remember Scott Pioli after he left Kansas City? He went there for a little bit. He was like the assistant general manager for a long time. Thomas Mitroff spent a lot of time in New England. He was GM there for like 14 years. It makes a lot of sense for Belichick to go to Atlanta. Let me ask you this here. What if you're Bill Belichick, you go to Atlanta and you say, look, I can get a stud at 8. I can get an absolute stud at 8. Maybe a receiver, offensive lineman, whatever. Maybe I want to grab Bailey Zappi, Jimmy G, Carson Wentz, Baker Mayfield, What if you go that route? So Detroit's going to lose. Yeah, Detroit's going to lose a lot, man. And by the way, I'm sorry on comments. I'm behind here. Teams want the leader of men type coaches. It goes in cycles. It really goes in cycles. Sometimes you want to get X's and O's guys. Sometimes you want to get leader of men types. It was kind of funny. I remember hearing, I think it was Bussin' with the Boys. They're talking about Greg Schiano, who's the head coach at Rutgers. He was going to be the defensive coordinator there in New England, and he turned it down. He wanted to spend more time with his family. Then he turned around, took the head coaching job at Rutgers. And I remember him saying that when he was head coach, he goes, what's the difference between head coach in college, head coach in pro? And he goes, the one thing that really always bugged me about the NFL is that I always wanted to teach my players, as a college guy, you want to be better men. And then I was told that, hey, look, our personal life's our personal life. We're here to do a job. And so that leader of men, that's what you have. But that's not always true. I mean, these are professionals. What they want to do is that they should be able to get themselves motivated. You just got to put them in the right position to succeed. So it's different for different types. I think Antonio Pierce is a leader of men type coach, right? I think now you're kind of speaking, I'm making a case for yourself, but somebody like Mike McCarthy's more of an X's and O's type of guy. So, but it goes in cycles. How much is Baker? And I think it's a combination, but I think more to receivers. Dude, they got some good receivers. But I watched that game, and I mean, there was a lot of Philly looking like they just kind of just played half-ass, with Philly. I'm sure I would play. You have to play hardball with one of them. You really, really do. You have to play hardball with one of them. I almost think Baker should. If I'm Baker, it's so easy for me and you to say, I would only take $30 million and be happy. It's very easy for me and you to say that. And here's the deal. Baker Mayfield, remember those Progressive commercials, how awesome he was in those? Those were just great. And they're in Cleveland. Like one of the hardest cities to kind of market. I mean, I'm not being mean here. It's just, it's a small medium market. It's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'm not being mean here. I could say the same thing about Kansas City. I would, but I'm also looking at, hey, Derek Carr got 160 million. Daniel Jones, I forgot, he got like 40. I think he got like 4 years, 160 as well. And I'm like, hey, look, I took you guys to the playoffs, and he can make a strong case. But yeah, me and you were on the same page, but yeah, I think he did. Perry says Todd Bowles saved your job. The answer is yes. You're not going to have that much. You're not going to have that much. I looked it up when I was looking up the head coaching jobs, and you don't have very many players signed. You're not as good of shape as you think. It's not that much. I'm behind on comments, Perry. Next when I start getting to things in the off season, we'll talk about it. But they have money, but they got a lot of holes, man. You can always stagger player cap hits, so the big ones are in opposite years, but you can't do that. Yeah, and that's why I would sign Amon-Ra now and try to get his cap, and then you play hardball, and then that way you can stagger the two. But you got to do one or the other. You can't do both. I out of the two, I would say you lock up Amon-Ra and then play hardball with Sewell. That's what I would do. Both the Detroit coordinators have interviewed this week. Do you think that messes the game up? It shouldn't. It shouldn't, but they've never been in this situation before. Normally these interviews, when they're during the playoff rounds, they're phone interviews, and they're set up at a staggered time where, they have time allowed to take over. They work everything out, they coordinate. But I mean, this is a new thing. I remember, Eric Bieniemy would always get interviews and it wasn't a big deal. Different coaches would get interviews and it wasn't a big deal. It shouldn't be. But yeah, I'm going to tell you something, BD Duster. You don't really know because you've never been in it. So, and I apologize. I am behind on comments. Well, yeah, you're not resigning both at the same time, but both be a lion at the same time, hopefully. Don't be surprised if Goff gets a team-friendly deal. If I'm Goff, I try to stay in Detroit as long as I can. And if I'm Detroit, I might try to play hardball with him and be like, hey, man, we got this Hendon Hooker guy. And, we got to give him Monroe all this money. And I got to pay Penei Sewell. Can you work something out here? And if I'm Goff, I'd do it. But we'll see. Oh, man, look at this. I got the B and the Back Talk brothers, the great one, the talent, Gooch. Man, sorry it took so long, man. Sorry it took so long. Geno Smith, I thought, got a friendly deal at 3 years, 105. So it was a 3-year, $92 or $94 million deal is what the Browns tried to give Baker Mayfield several years ago. And that might be very generous. 3-year, 96, that might be very generous. So, and by the way, if Baker or Goff took that, you should just be like, yes, yeah. I don't think you do that, man. I really don't think you do that. I'm not saying you move on. I think you keep Sewell at right tackle and maybe you draft a left tackle or you find one in the draft. So here's what you're going to do with Sewell. You're going to year 5 him. You're going to franchise him probably twice. That's what I think you're going to do. You got to sign one or the other. I would sign the Sun God first. Back up the Brinks truck, reset the market, and then I would year 5 Sewell, franchise, and then maybe franchise him again. So Bucks ID, a foundational protection issue with the Eagles offense. I wouldn't expect them to do the same versus Detroit, but who knows? The only way Tampa really wins this game is that they run the ball, which is the strength of the Lions defense. And then Baker has to just play lights out, but you got to do all the little things, penalties, special teams, turnovers. The Bucks front 7 is really good though. I mean, the Bucks front 7's really good, and they would have to really show up. I have a hard time thinking it would happen, but yeah, I mean, the Bucks defense is really good. Yes, yeah, he's going to walk. I hope not. Don't be surprised if you lose one of them, and I'd be looking at Sewell as Sewell may have to. Yeah. We have a lot of bad contracts coming off the books. We have bad contracts, actually. Yeah. You have some guys. Expats player. Yeah. If the universe is perfect, the Bucks would get bounced. Bowles would get fired and Bill would go to Tampa Bay and win. Oh, God, that would be so awesome. Seriously, if that happened, Tom Brady would hug Belichick. It would be great. That would be so awesome. God, I wish you could come on Friday. You're gonna have a lot of guys, and then we could talk about it. Who really is? It was really Tommy. If they want a beer boy wonder leader, man. Baker made a lot of really good throws. Keys. Baker made a lot of really good throws, and Baker's always had a good arm. He's always had lots of arm talent. It's kind of funny because he's got an arm of somebody who's much bigger, but yeah, I mean, he made a lot of really good throws. And it was funny because they talked about Cade Otton setting like these playoff records, but he dropped like 5 passes or something crazy like that. I mean, to tell you the truth, they had some drops in that game. He could easily had. What was the final number here on Baker? 337. He could have had 4. He could have. He could have had 4. Yeah, a lot of drops. Yeah, a lot of drops. Baker can play. I mean, he found a home there. It's going to be a weird situation there in Tampa Bay because they have to figure out what they want to do because it looked. I mean, I was on board firing Bowles, blowing up the team, and now you're like because both inside Devin White and I forget the other one. I can't believe I forgot his name. Levante David. Both of them requested trades this offseason. I don't know if you remember. But they requested trades. Excuse me. Evans wanted the long-term deals. The management said no. Things are looking pretty dark there in Tampa. And, here's the deal. If you're Baker and you sign a 3-year deal, right, and you don't sign it very much, and you win, after year 2, you say, you know what, guys, I saved you some money. You're able to bring back Mike Evans. I won some games. We dominated the NFC South, which is still up in chaos. So, let's say you sign a 3-year deal. Over the next 2 years, 10 wins. Now, if Belichick signs with Atlanta, we'll see. But let's say in the next 2 years, 10 wins that division. So you win back-to-back NFC South titles. Then you come back and you're like 30, 31. I don't know how old Baker Mayfield is off the top of my head. Then you say, hey, look, I'll take a team, but this next one, I want to get paid. And if you're Tampa Bay and you agree to that, then you could sign them that deal that you talked about, 3-year, $96 million deal. Turn around in 2 years and say, hey, we'll give you a 5-year, $300 million deal. Or maybe 6-year, $400 million, which in a couple of years that might be fair. But I that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. McCole Hardman had a couple plays where he just looked like he gave up. That was really funny. Yeah, I mean, you got to figure out what you want to do. I mean, I know you're like, oh yeah, we're going to sign Sewell and we're going to keep Goff and we're going to give him Monroe all this money. You can't sign everybody. You can't do it. I think if you flip Baker situation with Jones or Cars or a handful of others, I don't think Baker starts looking as good. Probably not. I mean, one thing about the NFL, and I've said this over and over again, it's same thing. It's true with all these rookie quarterbacks coming out. The quarterback position relies so much on external factors. It relies more on external factors than any other position. Somebody, as a matter of fact, there was a Bills Mafia person that had to unfollow her after one of the Bills Chiefs games. I don't remember which one, but I said, how's it feel? I joked around with her. I was like, how's it feel to know that you traded the pick that landed the Chiefs Mahomes? And she wisely and smartly and correctly said he wouldn't have had this type of success in Buffalo. And she's right, because Kansas City was like the perfect storm. Buffalo, it wasn't. And people forget Josh Allen was a below average quarterback his first 2 years in the league. And then Brian Daboll built that around. And for whatever reason, Daboll and McDermott hate each other. And it's kind of weird because I'm looking at both head coaches firing assistants during the year. Now, Buffalo, it seemed like it worked. New York, it's yet to be seen. But yeah, and that's kind of why if I'm Baker, and you said the same thing. Take less money and keep in mind, I would only take, if I'm Baker Mayfield, I only take less money if I know I'm getting Mike Evans back. I would not take less money and then let Mike Evans walk. So, Cliff, what's up, brother? Dan, hasn't there been lots of line movements already, and haven't all the line moves covered? Let's take a look here, because I made my video. I released it a couple hours ago. And there is a little bit of movement, if I'm correct. Let me see here. If I remember correctly, and this is right off the top, I should know this because I just released a video about 5 hours ago. Cliff, by the way, check it out. And by the way, Cliff, man, great to see you, brother. Chiefs Bills has already moved up 0.5 point. Heavy action on the Bills. A lot of people like the Bills. Tampa Bay, Detroit staying at 6. It wouldn't surprise me if this jumps up to 6.5. San Francisco was 10. That line's probably going to go down. It's at 9.5. Baltimore, Houston, I don't remember. It's right. I'm going to buy DraftKings. DraftKings at 9. Bear with me here. Since you asked, let me see here. Houston, Baltimore, you can get 9.5 at some places. And I do, by the way, I do like Houston to cover. I just think Baltimore wins. Packers and Niners, it's pretty steady at 9.5. Bucks and Lions, DraftKings, that's weird. I'm on DraftKings and it says 6, but I'm seeing at one point it was 7. It's kind of weird. I got something called Vegas Insiders. Or I'll send this link to you. You know, it's funny. I don't know if you know who this is. Denver Gator does, but Kelly in Vegas actually DM'd me this link. Before she got really big, she would answer some of my DMs, but she actually sent me this a long time ago. But I'm seeing 6.5, 7. Chiefs, Bills. That's everywhere except DraftKings has that 2.5. So, but I got DraftKings pulled up. So Baker's problem is ego. Just the Cowboys. We need James. Is he due to come back? I didn't think he was. Yeah, Jackson. Probably. You're going to lose a lot of guys, man. You're going to lose a lot of guys. You have a very, very interesting offseason coming up in Detroit. It's going to be something different. That's not to say Jones or Carr would look as good as Baker. You know, seriously, I really expected Derek Carr to have so much more success, and I think Daniel Jones could have better success somewhere else. I don't know, but I mean, I actually was kind of expecting Derek Carr to look kind of like Baker. I thought with all those weapons and a great offensive mind, and I think Pete Carmichael is, I really was expecting a lot more out of Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr would look a lot better in Tampa Bay, but it's hard to say. But I do believe Baker still has a ceiling that won't be able to get most teams to a Super Bowl win. See, here's the thing. I think that if he stays in Tampa and you keep Mike Evans, you can be close, but he's not the guy that you can – I'm stealing this from the Around the Sticks podcast. You have the tractor and the trailer. All right. Alex Smith was the trailer. If everything else is right, you can win. Patrick Mahomes is the tractor. He's the guy that can actually pull your team to victory. It's been a long time since a quarterback that's been a trailer has won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco. I'm trying to think here. The last quarterback. I should know this. Maybe it might be Flacco. I mean, the best move is to always get that elite quarterback. But can you win with can you win Super Bowl with the trailer as quarterback? Yeah, you can. You can. Hardman looked like he thought if I just stop running and don't get to him, I can't get fans. Yeah. And there was some clip apparently like Chris Jones was just screaming at him from the sidelines. And it's funny because I keep hearing that there's no bitterness about the Chiefs defense versus the offense. But then I heard that like when Hardman just looked like he stopped running, you know which play I'm talking about. Most of you may not. Chris Jones was just furious. And I think there is some bitterness about the Chiefs defense this year towards the offense, even though it's been not publicly said. I think the NFL should just 3-year deals. You know what? A lot of people feel that way. A lot of players and teams would prefer the 3-year deal. You get 3 years, and then a lot of times that's when you get your best. And then, it's good for the players because you never know what's going to happen. Coaches resign, coordinators leave, players get injured. A lot of people feel that way. That's why it was such a huge win for the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes is that Patrick Mahomes only signed that 10-year deal. After he signed the deal, he kept playing. Yeah. Talking about external factors, how bad do you think Burrow would be if he didn't have Chase and Jefferson in college and now Chase and Higgins in the NFL? It's really interesting because I've always wondered, what would because Burrow, a lot of people think that this was a coaching mistake. I don't think it was. So for those of you that don't know, Dwayne Haskins beat out Burrow at Ohio State when Urban Meyer was the head coach there. And they talked about Burrow when he came out into the draft, and they were trying to get Urban Meyer to kind of like, oh, hey, did you make a mistake? And he's like, no, Haskins was better quarterback. Plain and simple. Nothing. Burrow was good, great kid. I loved him. Haskins just was better. Plain and simple. And Haskins, by the way, watch Haskins at Ohio State. It was crazy how good he looked, and then he got to the NFL, and it didn't work out. And the thing is, with a guy like Burrow, maybe if he went to a bad situation, maybe he wouldn't have the same success. I mean, Zach Taylor's an excellent coach. I mean, don't rule out what a great job Zach Taylor's done. So. Look, not be. Oh, okay. I'll good. Yeah. If I'm Baker and you say, hey, listen, Baker, here's the deal. I can keep Evans and I can keep Godwin, but you have to take less money. Then yeah. But if you take less money and you lose, then I would say no. Cody S. I don't know who Cody S. is. Oh, okay. He's an offensive lineman. Okay. His 21-day window started 2 weeks ago, so if he doesn't get activated this week, he's done for the year. For which player? Which player are you talking about? James Houston? Okay. Keep me informed. BD Duster, all my picks, all my social media links are below. I'm currently still kicked off of Facebook. I'm hoping that will change. I've emailed them multiple times. I've seen some other accounts in the past that were gone for like a month or 2 or 3, and then they get reactivated. I'm kind of hoping I'm kind of pissed because it was deactivated on Christmas Day, and I've emailed them 7 or 8 times because I'm in a couple Facebook groups I want to stay involved in and have nothing to do with football. but I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I just started Threads, which I don't know too much about. I don't have that link below, but it's Dan Talks Football. You could DM me if you want. One Pride sent me some stuff. He sent me a picture of his girl with another dude. It was kind of weird. So, over under of Russell Wilson staying with Denver, or will end up if Denver moves on. Okay, I think he is gone. Where he moves to, it's going to be interesting because I'm looking at like maybe a team like Atlanta. You put Russell Wilson on Atlanta, a team with two really good running backs and a good defense, and you say, hey, look, just manage the game, run for some first downs. We don't need you to go back there and just pick a team apart. That would make a lot of sense. You put Russell Wilson on Atlanta, that's 10, 11, 12-win team easy. Baker Mayfield wants too much money. Russell Wilson going to Tampa could also make a lot of sense. I mean, those are two teams just off the top of my head. It's kind of funny. Pete with Pete's Takes. He was going to come on. He's been an anti-Tua guy. Tua's probably going to ask for 250 to 300 million, and I'm looking at that Dolphins team, and there's no way I want to give Tua that type of money. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to tell you something. I love Tua. Like, if I had a daughter, I would want her to date somebody like Tua. Like, he's a great kid. I do. Listen, I said this in my live stream. Tua was very clearly, visibly affected by the weather. And I don't blame him. I mean, he's from Hawaii. He played college ball at Alabama. He got drafted by a team in South Florida. No, he can't handle -30. You know what he did is that he stayed on the field, and I think he shook hands with like every single Chiefs player, every single one, and that showed a lot of class. So I love Tua as a guy. Do I want to give him 300 million? No. But you know, that Russell Wilson on the last couple of years of his deal, that might make a lot of sense for a team like Miami. That I think Miami is a team that really wants to run the ball, throw the ball deep. That's kind of the way the offense is designed in San Francisco. It's a very similar thing. So that would make sense. Denver's going to have to eat some money, but I don't think he stays with Denver. Denver, I had this pulled up earlier. I should have just kept this here. I don't know why I keep deleting it, but they pick 13th, Denver 12th. They'll probably take a quarterback. And in order to move up in the draft, it's going to be tough to it's going to be really tough for them to move up with draft capital. So if they move up, they're going to have to give up some players. So, but no, I do think that you move on. I don't know what team makes the most sense, to be honest with you. I think Atlanta could make sense. If Belichick goes there and he's like, hey, look, let's bring in Russell Wilson because Denver's going to need a large part of that cap, and we won't have to give up as much trade compensation as we might want to, or we can give up some trade compensation for next year, which could also work. Carl Cheffers, from everything I've read, is now out of the playoffs off the Foot Locker. I didn't know that. You sent me something. I thought you sent me something where Cheffers was. Oh no, that's Hockley. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Dan, last week line moves were for Tampa, Kansas City, and Green Bay, all covered. Yeah, well, and by the way, I predicted all three of those games correctly. Predicted all three. You know what? I'm drawing a blank here. No. I was 2-1. I apologize. I had Dallas covering. So you're talking about James Houston. Do you think the Seahawks GM and Belichick can coexist? No, I do not. And here's the deal. And here's the deal. The answer is no. And the reason why is that the move was made because the GM Schneider kind of won a power struggle because Pete Carroll ran everything, and then Schneider was just there. And from now on, instead of Pete Carroll, the new head coach, going directly to the owner, he's going to go directly to the general manager. And if you had problems dealing with Pete Carroll, you're not going to be able to handle Belichick. So the answer is no. Belichick would work in a place like I think Atlanta makes a lot of sense. I think Washington also makes a lot of sense because Riviera, even though I think they gave him a different title, but basically he was the general manager. So, but no, out of all the head coaching jobs, I don't see Seattle and Belichick working at all. Is there a quarterback like Sean Breeze that is there a quarterback like Drew Brees that Sean Payton could develop in free agency? Yeah, Tua. I honestly think that the best thing that could happen is to flip Tua and Sean Payton, Tua and Russell Wilson, because Miami wants a quarterback that can throw the deep ball, and they want to be a run-first team, and that's what Russell Wilson's designed for. And a guy like Tua doesn't have the big arm, but it's accurate, more of a dink and dunk type of guy. He would flourish. But let's take him off the table. I've said this for a long time. Keep in mind, we went to the same high school, but Drew Lock, a lot of people thought he had a first-round grade. He's the backup in Seattle. He should have been the starting quarterback there in Denver when they went with Bridgewater. Bridgewater is going to retire supposedly, but if you're Sean Payton, why wouldn't you call up Bridgewater and say, listen, can you come here for 2 years? I'll give you $50 million, and you play for about 10 games. We're going to draft somebody. So I'm looking at Bridgewater. Drew Lock, not really a Drew Brees type. Tua, I think, would flourish. If I'm Denver, I would try to work something out where you flip-flop Russell Wilson and Tua. Tua would be more successful in Denver. Russell Wilson would be more successful in Miami. And because Denver would eat that cap for the first couple of years, you could re-sign a bunch of players in Miami. You could work out a contract with Tua so that year or two that Russell Wilson's cap is made, then you give Tua the big-time money. Granted, Tua has to play out. So that would be like ideal. Gardner Minshew's a guy that I've always been high on. A lot of people don't like him, and if I'm the Colts, I give Gardner Minshew a lot of money because I have no idea what they expect out of Anthony Richardson. Davis Mills out of who's the backup for Houston. Case Keenum, both those guys kind of rotated as backups. Kind of weird what went on there, but both those guys could play in Sean Payton's offense. I've always liked Davis Mills a lot. Bailey Zappi, I don't know what's going on in the quarterback situation there in New England. Bailey Zappi, I don't think he has the NFL arm strength, but he's a guy that, kind of got thrown in the fire and he played really well. Baker Mayfield's the guy that I think that if you could work things out, Baker Mayfield, I think, would be the perfect fit for Sean Payton. I think Baker Mayfield would fit like a glove in the Sean Payton offense. And that's the guy that I don't want to see in Denver's Baker Mayfield. Keep in mind, Baker would want big time money. So that's I kind of don't see that happening, but my gut is I think what Denver's going to do is that they're going to probably trade a player to try to trade up in the draft and get somebody. What I saw was that with the exception of the divisional round, if a ref officiates a playoff game, that's the only game they officiate in the playoffs. The Super Bowl ref comes from next weekend's group. I didn't know that. Actually, I didn't know that. But the way the referees work out Only the referees, by the way, a lot of people don't believe this because there's always been a lot of criticism about referees, but they have a very strict grading system. And it's done on a weekly basis. Like they get grades on a weekly basis, and the ones with the highest grades get to go to the playoffs where they make more money. It's actually a great system, to tell you the truth, because if you do well, you get to play in the playoffs where you make more money. It's a great system. And yeah, it's been criticized, but the referees have been criticized, but it's actually a pretty good system. So, but I didn't know that they kept them out. I didn't know that. I got my boy Tim. What's up, brother? Hello from the Oklahoma-Missouri state line, crashing at a hotel for the night. Great show, bro. Tim, thanks for the love, man. Do not get hookers there, but there's some good casinos on the Oklahoma border. So I don't know if you still play or not, but man, have some fun if you visit one of them. Hopefully it's not as cold there as it is here. It is brutal here. If the Seahawks hired Belichick, I think the GM is out. If that happens, the GM's got to be the number one GM to be hired. Yeah, John Schneider is widely respected among NFL circles, but the rumor, I was just reading this before I came on, is that Pete Carroll reports directly to the owner, and John Schneider reports to the owner, but Pete Carroll has personnel control. Well, that's all going to change, where John Schneider is going to be the owner doesn't want to hear from the head coach anymore. And keep in mind, Paul Allen, the Microsoft founder, when he bought the team, he wanted to be a little more involved. Since he passed away, I think it's his daughter who's the main controller. She just wants to write the checks. She doesn't want to hear from Pete Carroll. And so she's passing that on to Schneider. And Schneider, who never had control about who Pete Carroll could hire or fire his coaches, is now going to have complete control over that. So that's why I don't think Belichick's gonna work in Seattle. And I just read this like a half an hour ago. You have to take it with a grain of salt, but it makes sense. Look, you got a new owner, a relatively new owner. She took over a couple years ago. It's a business thing. You know, she's the daughter of Paul Allen. She doesn't give a fuck about football. I mean, you know, she grew up with he was like the second or like the richest or the second richest owner. I mean, the dude's worth like, I think 100 billion or something. I mean, she probably has a life that nobody can relate to. Like, $1 billion to her is probably like 10,000 to me and you. She probably doesn't give a fuck. She probably like, I don't want to hear from Pete Carroll. Do you think I want this guy coming in here ranting and raving? No, I'm going to sit in my gold bathtub and, drink $1 million bottles of champagne, and eat caviar. I don't know what the fuck she does, but no, I think that she just wants John Schneider to run the team. And the biggest problem that Pete Carroll, this is public though, that Pete Carroll said it wasn't football people who fired me. So that leads me to believe that the owner said, "Hey, look, I don't, you run it. I don't want to do this shit." I mean, and listen. I mean, there are several owners in the NFL that are like, and then there's, guys like Jerry Jones who want to make the draft picks and evaluate the players and go to the combine. And I'm not saying either is wrong or right, but yeah. I don't think that Tua and Russ swap is a bad idea, except for that Miami offensive line, but maybe Russ processes better under McDaniel's offensive system. Well, here's the deal. This is kind of a misconception. A lot of people think the Miami Dolphins offense is complicated. It's really not. It's a very simplistic offense, where Sean Payton's offense is very complicated. And I don't know this for a fact, but I got the impression that Tua would be better suited, and I think he would be able to process the offense better than Russell Wilson. And by the way, I think Russell Wilson played pretty well last year, but so Now, keep in mind, the reason why this makes sense is because Denver eats a lot of Russell Wilson's contract. Okay. So you have some extra money. Austin Jackson, he was a former first round pick, looked like an absolute bust. He ended up starting at right tackle, played really, really well. Teron Armstead, a massive free agent, missed a lot of games on the left side. I don't know what you do about him. There's another hole or two. And then you got Jalen Waddle, Christian Wilkins, who me and you both think would look great in the Chiefs uniform. The reason why I like the move is because I think what you would do is that if this worked out, you would be able to re-sign some players and keep your offensive line. Miami wants to be a run-first team. It looks great. They got all this speed, but they want to be a run-first team. Take a look at San Francisco. San Francisco is a heavy run-first team, but they have offensive explosiveness from everywhere on the field. And that's kind of what Miami wants to do. Having a guy like Russell Wilson that can throw the ball deep helps a lot. Now keep in mind the negative 30-degree temperature. If it was played in like normal conditions, Miami would have been able to tack downfield against the Chiefs in that negative 30-degree temperature. And I know that people are going to say, oh, what about that strike? That was the only time the whole game he threw downfield. Part of that is the Chiefs' defensive line just was blowing it up. But, yeah. You got to fix things on the offensive line. Austin Jackson's probably going to leave in free agency. That's going to be an interesting name because here's a guy that's got lots of talent, was a dud for several years, and then got his chance to start, played really, really well. A world of talent. He's only 24. He entered the NFL at 20. So, he might be 23. But, this is a guy who's still ascending, and he played really good last year, and he's a former first-round pick. So, I'd be worried about the big ego Russ coming back out in Miami, though. That's another thing. Is I think part of the reason why Russell Wilson and Sean Payton clash are both big ego guys. I get the impression Mike McDaniel's not a big ego guy, which is rare for a head coach. The NFL Hard Knocks, I haven't watched it. This is the first time I haven't watched a Hard Knocks in a long time. I didn't watch the Jets. I probably won't. I was going to watch Miami, and I just couldn't get motivated, so I probably won't watch it. The clips I've seen, I get the impression that McDaniel's not a big ego guy. And I got the impression that I don't know. I have no idea. But I got the impression that he would be able to work with a guy like Russell Wilson. And by the way, I wish Hey Girl was here because she knows all about it. Russell Wilson's wife is some famous singer, Sierra. I don't know who she is. I got a feeling somebody like her would find Miami more appealing than Denver. By the way, Denver's a great town. But I don't know. I don't know. He signed a 3-year, $60-70 million deal. The Raiders haven't figured out who their head coach is going to be. If they stick with Antonio Pierce, like I think they should, don't be surprised wherever Belichick goes that Jimmy G's the type of guy that could go. Somebody mentioned about Sean Payton just a few minutes ago. I didn't even mention Jimmy G, but he's a guy that could flourish in that type of offense. Could Baker develop? Absolutely. I think that would fit like a hand in the glove. There was somebody mentioned something about the Stafford retire. And if he, let's just say he did, then, and because Sean McVay and Baker Mayfield got along great. I get the impression a guy like Baker Mayfield, I get the impression Baker Mayfield's just a likable dude. And I think that he would develop under Sean Payton. I really do. I do. I think that would be, out of all the quarterbacks, I really don't want to go to Denver. I don't want Baker Mayfield. And keep in mind, I don't think he'll ever be elite. But the one thing is that Baker Mayfield's a trailer that could get you to a Super Bowl, because I look at Denver. Denver's got a lot of really good pieces. You got stud running back. You got stud receivers. You got this defense with a ton of talent. On all levels, and you have some good draft capital, and Denver's a great place, man. I went there last summer for the first time, and I fell in love with it. It's such a wonderful place. Where did Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn interview with? I don't know if they set up the interviews. I think you have to do it after the division round games. I could be wrong, but I think Ben Johnson has an interview with everybody. Aaron Glenn's had a few. I don't have the exact number though. So just -16. It's 4 here. I work. So for those of you that don't know, I do grocery delivery, and I do it because I can pick and choose my own schedule. I was going to drive today, but I got a little behind on my video. Then I had to go grocery shop, and I went outside. And it says 4, but earlier today, even with the sun out, it was like 10. And when I deliver, I bundled up like a motherfucker, so I'm not cold. I didn't today, and I was just like, fuck this. Hatters on 710, Lions by 1 million. I love it. By the way, check my video out. The division round picks video. Please check it out. Pretty please. It's a good video. It's a really, really good video. I'm bragging about myself. I'm really proud of it. It's a good video. And I went 4-2 straight up and against the spread. That's pretty good. That young running back in the draft, will he move up in the draft because of his age? Are you talking about Are you talking about? I think you're talking Braylon Smith, the Wisconsin running back. I'm drawing a complete blank. I think that's who you're talking about. I'm just drawing a complete blank. Who you're talking about? Braylon Allen, and I'm trying to see here because I have his. I'm pulling him up. I shouldn't have pulled him up on ESPN because I don't think. Okay. No, it doesn't give his age. It doesn't give his age, but Braylon Allen, if I'm correct, because he entered Wisconsin, he was 17. I think he'll enter the NFL. I think he's either 19 or 20. Braylon Allen's a guy I'm really going to pay attention. He's 20. Okay, so this is the guy we're talking about. I need to see what he does at the combine because I'm hearing ESPN and on all the other sources say he's 6'2", 245. I never believe that until I see him at the combine. More than likely, if he's a fast dude. More than likely, he's probably training and is sprinting, and there's a chance he may be losing weight. I remember Leonard Fournette when he came into the draft. He came in heavy, and that kind of, like he weighed. It was I think he weighed at like 245 or 250, and people were like, "That's not good." And they ran a 4.51, and it's like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll take you 4th overall." I think it'll be interesting to see what he weighs in at. Does he's listed like I've heard everywhere from like 240 to 250. More than likely, he'll probably be somewhere between 230 and 240. What does he run? Now, keep in mind, Jonathan Taylor, when he entered the combine, I said if he runs under 4.55, he goes in the first round. He ran a 4.38 and he went in the second round. So I was wrong there, but I'm going to keep saying it. If he's somewhere between 230 and 240, and he runs in the 4.5 range, which I think he will, he could go first round. And there's several teams I think that would take him, and I'd start with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay may take him. Dallas could take him. Kansas City could take him. I would love to see him in Kansas City because he's not a bad receiver. There's a lot of teams that could take a look at him. Because it's not really his age. It's that team. Apparently he's just this really great guy, and even though he entered college at 17, he was able to handle it. And some people thought he'd be a better linebacker. And to tell you the truth, off-ball linebackers aren't really held in the same regards as edge rushers. He's probably leaving money on the table because he wants to play running back. I love this kid, and I don't know if he goes in the first round. If he runs a bad 40 time, if he runs in the 4.6 range, he could go like third or fourth round. But is he moving up? And I will have to see at the combine, because if he weighs in at like 245 and runs like a 4.55, he could go first round very easily. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. The report is the job is Antonio Pierce. One Pride sent me something that he got the job not too long ago. I haven't heard anything official, but it should have been. It'd be a smart move for the Raiders to sign him. All right. So DraftKings website's having an issue right now. Eric Eager just released penalty EPA for remaining playoff teams. One win is negative 35 points. Top team is Bucks with 22.4 EPA. All right. None of the remaining playoff teams have a positive. That's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting. Packers -4, 49ers -6-1, Bills -7-9, Ravens -7-9, Lions, Texans. Where are the Chiefs at? Oh, the Chiefs and the team a lot of dumb fans say gets all the breaks as rest in her pocket. The win is okay. I'm sorry. So here's the deal. So he said it looked like a negative here. Where was that? One win is about 35 points. Okay. So sorry about that, Keys. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. There's a lot of interesting prospect in the draft. There's a lot. Braylon Allen's one of my draft crushes. Roma Duze is a guy that's I love this kid, and I'm looking at the draft, and I could easily see him going maybe even top 5. But there's going to be some debate on who the number 2 wide receiver is. For me, it's a Duze, but a lot of guys. Yeah, Perry, by the way, check my video out, division round video. I just released it several hours before I came on. Ravens will play the Houston Texans in a fun game. By the way, I'm like legally blind without my glasses. I mean, I thank God I do wear my glasses, but I just realized, I have a where the hell did that go? I have a thing that I wipe off my glasses with. It just vanished off the face of the earth. I've literally kept it here for as long as I can remember. And I literally have a thing right here that I keep here on purpose just so I can wipe my glasses off with, and it is vanished. All right. That is very strange. That is very strange. All right, so man, I always have some comments, some things I wanted to go over, but I just got so many comments. I just kind of forgot the outline. Just wanted to answer questions. Yeah, Perry. There's a lot of defensive tackles. There's some good defensive tackles. There's some really good offensive linemen, quarterbacks and receivers. You're going to see a lot in the first round. There's some decent running backs. There's some decent corners in this draft too. This is a good draft. This is a good draft. And also, I'm looking at like Tua's younger brother. He's not coming out, apparently. He's going to play college ball one more year. He's at the transfer portal. He set every passing record from Maryland. It'll be an interesting place where he signs. Tyler Van Dyke, who was the quarterback in Miami, I thought he was going to be a first-round pick, had some injury issues. He's transferred up to Wisconsin. Wisconsin is going to be more of a passing team next year, kind of an interesting team. The coach that took the University of Cincinnati to the BCS, he's taken over at Wisconsin. He's bringing a lot of really good players there. That's a guy that could surprise people and be a first-round pick next year. I watched USC play in Holiday Bowl, and I watched Caleb Williams backup throw for a USC record 6 touchdowns in a bowl game. I think he's going to win the Heisman. There are some really good players. There are some really good players that are going to be in next year's draft. And I'm already talking about 2025, 2024. Yeah, this is a good draft. This is a real good draft. Man, I was going to talk about each one of these teams and each one of these games. I'll go through here. It's going to be kind of rapid fire here. Cleveland at Houston. There's a lot of teams that are going to look at what Houston did in the draft and how much they gave up. Because right now, Arizona has that first-round pick earlier in the year. It looked like it was going to be an awesome trade. Arizona, from that trade, as of right now, it's going to be the 27th and 91st pick in the draft. Well, is it worth it to get a guy like Will Anderson, who was the 3rd pick overall in the draft? Well, a lot of teams are going to say, hey, well, is there a quarterback or a receiver who's worth that? Because when you look at this draft, I mean, Chicago's not probably not picking 1. Chargers at 5, they're not taking a quarterback. Tennessee at 7, they're not. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. So yeah. If Johnny Wilson has a great combine, he could shoot up draft boards, guys 6'7" or 6'8". I don't know too much about him. I know he's the Florida State receiver. I did not watch Florida State play this year. I keep hearing different things. I'm hearing 6'7", 240, runs a 4.5. I want to see what he looks like at the combine. And here's the deal. I'm not watching him run the 40. I'm watching him on the gauntlet drills. I'm watching him run routes. I'm seeing, is he fluid? Does he catch with his hands? I don't know if he's going to play at the Senior Bowl or not. Bo Nix is. Denver Gator, who I haven't seen in the chat. Hopefully I'll see him. But he's near the Senior Bowl. He said he's going to go down there, and I've been like, hey, look, if you can give me any information at all. Last year, Cody Mock. Now, keep in mind he had a pretty high draft grade anyway, but he was playing all sorts of positions on the offensive line. He was the guy that really stood out. He ended up being a 2nd-round pick of the Bucs. That's a good building block of that interior offensive line. Cody Mock, he started, I think, every game as a rookie at the guard. He was okay, but I think next year he's really going to be like a really good guy. But yeah, I want to see what he looks like because I haven't had a chance to watch him play. The Trek Reviewer. What's up, brother? He says, I think this draft is the deepest in the last few years. I don't know. Receiver, it's a good one, but a couple of years ago there was a draft. It was like 12 receivers that went in. It's hard to say. Every year is kind of different spin, but it's going to be a fun draft because there's a lot of teams with multiple picks in the first round, and I'm looking at like Chicago is a fun team because they pick 1 and 9. They're going to move on from one of those. The Chargers at 5, they don't need a quarterback. Arizona at 4, they don't need a quarterback. Tennessee at 7, they don't need a quarterback. The Jets at 10, what do you do there? I mean, you got Rodgers, but for how long? Zach Wilson is there a team that wants to give you a third or a fourth for Zach Wilson? Trey Lance it was I think a low fourth for Trey Lance. So I mean that's kind of what I'd be looking at. There's some things. So the Chiefs are going to have a rest advantage this weekend. Now a practice one. Apparently the Bills may have to cancel practice this week due to a possible new storm and travel ban. And the weather for Sunday is expected to feel like -3. So I checked out the weather report. The weather report I saw was 20. The game time conditions going to be like 20 with a 15-mile-an-hour wind, but it's actually not supposed to be bad. That's what I looked at this afternoon because I was kind of curious, but I don't think the weather is going to be an issue. I'll send you actually what I looked at earlier today. I'll send this to you. But the weather is not going to be bad, Keys, in Buffalo for game time. But I'll send you this is what I looked at. This is what I looked at. If you take a look at that link that I sent you, game time condition, not really that bad. Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun for both of these. This is just going to be a great draft. I am going to be live for the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. In my video, I talk about this. I talk about this because it is a little bit of an advantage. Perry asked a great question. What are the keys for Kansas City and the Bills to win? Okay. This is a great question. The keys, I'm going to start with Kansas City. The key for Kansas City is that, believe it or not, what the Chiefs want to do is how you beat them for a large part of the season. And what the Chiefs want to do, believe it or not, is control the clock, shorten the game, and put their defense in a position. And the reason why you want to do that is that the Bills have a really good defense as well, but the Chiefs defense is a little better. And the issue that I'm looking at specifically is their linebackers. Both their linebackers went down. And so Pittsburgh started attacking the middle of the field. Well, who do the Chiefs have that can attack the middle of the field? I don't know. Maybe a certain Hall of Fame tight end. A guy like Kelsey could really change this game around. I think the Chiefs need to play ball control and force Josh Allen to not make mistakes, because Josh Allen, as great as he's been all year, and he didn't have a single turnover against Pittsburgh, has a lot of turnovers. If I remember right, I think the punter or I think it was the punter got injured in the game. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll play. So it's a little different of a feel, but I think the Chiefs really want to shorten this game up, play ball control, and really put the pressure on Buffalo with fewer possessions. And I think that's a really, really big deal, because if you could put the pressure on Buffalo if you can put the pressure on Buffalo in fewer possessions to not turn the ball over, They're the ones that got the pressure. Kansas City's the underdog. They're on the road. I think that the pressure is really on the Bills, not the Chiefs. So if I'm Kansas City, the key is, can they run the ball? Can they take advantage of those linebackers? Even if they play, they're not going to be at 100%. That benefits Kelsey. So with the Chiefs, it's ball control, turnover battle. The Bills, on the other hand, I think really want to turn this into a track meet. I think the Bills want to really try to make this into a game where, even though Von Miller hasn't had a sack all year, that the edge rushers can go. They want to try to make this into a track meet. The key for Buffalo is quite simply, they want Allen to run. They want to spread things out. They want James Cook, who had a great year. He had a great game against Kansas City in the win. They want to get him in the open field. They really want to. I think they want to spread things out, and I think Josh Allen has to be a factor on the ground. The key is for Kansas City's ball control and running the ball. I think for Buffalo it's Josh Allen running, James Cook running, and them not making a mistake. Because here's the deal. I think Kansas City, I think Patrick Mahomes can have a pick or two and not be worried. I feel like if Josh Allen throws a pick, everybody's going to tighten up. So do I think Josh Allen? No, I don't. And I think the plan is Allen needs to run. They're going to design him to run, and then they're going to also take some deep shots downfield. That's why I think the Chiefs want to make this a shorter game, is because don't expect – I expect either the first drive of the game, you're either going to see like a flea flicker or a deep shot, or you're going to see Josh Allen with a one or two direct runs. And what you're going to do is, it's just a cat and mouse game, is that you're going to go ahead and put the emphasis on Kansas City to either stop Allen running or stop Allen throwing. It's going to be one or the other. And I kind of want to see how Buffalo does it, because can they keep Allen in the pocket? No, they can't. But one thing that the Chiefs have that Pittsburgh doesn't is healthy linebackers. They signed what's his name? He wore number 16, Miles Jack. They signed Miles Jack, who was studying to be an electrician during the season, and he was the starting linebacker. And Alondre Roberts, he was like a special teams guy or a backup. That was your two starting inside linebackers. The Chiefs, they're going to have Nick Bolton back. They got Drew Tranquill. He signed with Kansas City, and Andy Reid said, listen, come here from the Chargers. We know you started there, but come here to Kansas City, win a ring. Willie Gay tweeted out, hey, listen, Kansas City, it's probably my last season here. And he's right. He went to a Pro Bowl. He's going to want a lot of money. Willie Gay size-speed combination is like, if you were to say, God, build me a linebacker, somebody built like Willie Gay. So the Chiefs got three linebackers that can just run, and they're phenomenal players, and they got lots of experience. That's something Pittsburgh didn't have. Flip side, Buffalo's linebackers, both of them, I think they were backups too, but because Milano went out earlier in the year, both linebackers and I think two corners went out. Buffalo got nailed with injuries, but I do think Allen can run. But it's going to be a little different. You're not going to see a 52-yard touchdown run against Kansas City. I'm not worried about Buffalo not having to practice today, because there was a span of 10 days last year where the Bills did not practice at all, and one game was changed to be in a home game in Detroit. I think, and Buffalo won all three of those games. It's a lot different when you're playing a team like Kansas City. It's a lot different when you're playing a team like Kansas City. Yes. Perry asked, do you think Dalton Kincaid can break out? Yeah, I love this kid coming out of college. He was a steal for Buffalo. I think that drafting Kincaid, even though he plays tight end, was a move because you're probably going to move on from Gabe Davis. In a year or two, you're probably going to move from Stephon Diggs. So, yeah. And I don't feel bad for the Bills. They got a whole week of rest advantage over Kansas City in the first matchup. And what he's talking about is that the Bills had a bye before they played the Chiefs in the regular season, where the Chiefs did not. That was kind of a weird thing where all the teams the last several weeks of the season had a rest advantage over Kansas City. So there was no Pacheco, the key to the offense. There was no Drew Tranquil, and I want to say it was Bolton's first game back from IR. It was, and he didn't play full time. Another thing is that in the game against Miami, even though nobody really paid attention, Justin Ross didn't play, Kadarius Toney didn't play, Wanda Morris, who I think might have an impact, even though he may not start. Don't be surprised if the Chiefs do a little 6 offensive linemen against the Bills and try to win ugly, because I think this is going to be kind of weird. I think it's going to be kind of weird because I really think the Chiefs really want to run the ball and eat up the clock and shorten this game and limit the possessions of Josh Allen, because I really believe that the Chiefs feel like if we can get Josh, if we win the turnover battle, we're going to win this game. I really think it's kind of flipped, because teams want to beat Kansas City by keeping Mahomes off the field. I think the key to winning this game is to have Josh Allen off the field, because he didn't have a turnover against Pittsburgh, but he will have a turnover against Kansas City. I want to see Allen take off scrambling and take a hit from it. I think everybody wants to see that. Do you think Belichick ho-ho to the Steelers? No, I don't. And there's, by the way, Tomlin reported he is coming back, but there was lots of talk about Tomlin retiring. He went public before I came on and said he's coming back. I have no idea where these rumors started, but Tomlin, I think Tomlin was thinking about it or something. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. You said 2000, but you meant 2020. The answer is yes. So here's the deal. In every single year except for last year, where the Bengals beat Buffalo, if Buffalo would have beat the Bengals in last year's playoffs, they would have played the Chiefs at Arrowhead. And here's the funny thing, is that this is the first time the game's in Buffalo. The other 7 times are at Arrowhead. Go to the Steelers, not ho-ho. So I had Belichick slated to go to Washington, and that just made a lot of sense to me. But when I found out he was meeting with Atlanta, I think Atlanta's the premier position. After the blueprint of Houston trading next year's draft capital to get this year's talent, it seemed to work out, because I'm looking at that NFC South, and I'm thinking, if I trade and get an elite player, whether it's a quarterback, receiver, what have you, it's worth it. And Atlanta has an extra pick in the 3rd round. If I remember right, they pick, it's like 74th and 79th, and they also have the 8th overall pick. Do you think Houston can beat the Ravens? The answer is yeah, I really do. CJ Stroud's for real. The key to that game is the one problem about Houston is they really, really struggle running the ball. And Baltimore has the number 1 scoring defense. And in order for Houston to beat Baltimore, they're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have some success running the ball. I don't see it happening. I personally just don't see it happening. But if Houston can run the ball against Baltimore, that's the key to the game. because they can't be a one-dimensional team against Baltimore. What they did against Cleveland is they remember the first play of the game was a 75-yard touchdown flea flicker. I mean, Cleveland kind of okay. I'm not dogging Cleveland, but when Houston got it up, Cleveland just shit themselves. Baltimore won't do that. Baltimore won't panic like Cleveland did. So Houston will have to be able to run the ball. That's the key, but they haven't been able to do it. You may see some more direct runs by CJ Stroud, not really what he wants to do. I mean, he ran like a 4.55 at the combine, wasn't a runner at Ohio State. He's not a runner in the pros. You may have to have him running the ball. You got to run the ball, and that's the key because Baltimore's led the NFL in scoring defense. They led the NFL in sacks. If you're a one-dimensional passing team against Baltimore, you're going to lose. Can they run the ball? I don't know. The gem of the KC Star reporting Brooke Pryor. I didn't know that. It was all about Brooke Pryor. Huh. Okay, so let me go on. Let me touch base. So here's the deal. Brooke Pryor was the one who reported the Tyreek Hill incident before she knew all the facts, and just wanted to report a story, and it caused a lot of problems with the Chiefs organization and Tyreek Hill. So that's where Keys is coming from. But I didn't know that was it. The keys to the Packers and the 49ers. Now, this is interesting because these two coaches are the same. Yeah, Brooke Porter is the one who reports. So Brooke Pryor, I'm sorry. She reported the Tyreek Hill incident several years ago before she knew the facts. And what happened was Tyreek Hill called the police on his wife. There was like some sort of incident. She reported that Tyreek Hill beat up his girlfriend. He was in jail because she wanted to get the story out. You know, it's a national story. She gets a big name, and it turns out to be like everything she reported was wrong. And it caused all sorts of problems with the Chiefs organization, Tyreek Hill. And so, yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that. So, with the Packers and 49ers, these two coaches go back really, really far. They go all the way back to Atlanta. And by the way, in my video, I talk about this briefly. Dan Quinn was the head coach. His offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan. The quarterback's coach was Matt LaFleur. They had both LaFleur brothers. I always get Matt and Mike mixed up. I believe Matt's in Green Bay. It might be Mike. I always get the two mixed up. I'll say LaFleur. If you watch Green Bay and you watch San Francisco, the offenses are very, very similar. Shanahan wants to run the ball a little more. Green Bay is more of a balanced offense. Both teams have pretty good defenses, but I think San Francisco is better. This game, I'm going to give you kind of a lame, weenie answer. It's really just running the ball. Which team has more? Both these teams want to run the ball. Both these teams are built off, their offenses are built upon running the ball. With San Francisco, they want to run the ball, throw the ball deep downfield, but then the passing game's designed to have those receivers run after the catch. So Christian McCaffrey is kind of the key for the 49ers. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon may be back. And if that's the case, he might have to be the key to the game for the Packers. But I'm going to give you the weenie mind. I'm going to give you the weenie answer. It's quite simply the running game. Which team runs the ball? Because if Green Bay can have success running the ball against the 49ers, they're in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. And by the way, San Francisco has a great defense, but that's how Baltimore beat them, is that when Baltimore started to run the ball, they just kind of fell apart. If the 49ers run the ball and Christian McCaffrey just starts exploding and it gets to be a shootout, then and that benefits the 49ers because the 49ers have had so many great pass rushers that they added. Remember, they added Randy Gregory. They added Chase Young. I forgot his name already. I love that guy too. By the way, he went to San Francisco. He only has 2.5 sacks, but I mean he's playing for Chase Young. Yeah. He's playing for a big contract. You know, I mean, he doesn't want to stop the run. If you're a defensive end and you're playing for a new contract, the last thing you want to do is stop the run. So if Green Bay can establish the running game, it changes everything. And that's just such a weenie answer for you. But yeah. D'Amico Ryan's going to have a great defensive game plan for the Ravens offense. And very well, he could. Such a great defensive line. And you're right. By the way, when these two teams played in week 1, the defense did a really good job against the Ravens offense. The Ravens only ran for like 82 yards. And their leading rusher was Lamar Jackson with like 36. Now, keep in mind, Monahan or Montague or I think it's Monahan, Ohikin, the former Georgia offensive coordinator, one that you think could get a head coaching job, and very well could because his name's been popping up more and more circles. That offense is so much better week now than it was in week 1. But they did a really good job stopping the run. Now, I don't think they do anything overly crazy against Baltimore. I think that what they do is they just here's how you play defensively is that it may not be a specific scheme. It just may be assignment football. What you do is you try to put pressure with 4. You drop back 7, right? You got some good linebackers. Denzel Perryman, he spent some time with the Raiders. He was a guy I really liked. Not a star, but he's a smaller dude. He's undersized, but he's fast. I mean, who's going to win in a foot race, Lamar Jackson or Denzel Perryman? It's going to be Lamar Jackson, but it may not be a defensive game plan. It might just be simple assignment football. You rush 4, you don't blitz, you don't do anything crazy. You drop 7, you keep everything in front of you, and you put the pressure on Lamar Jackson, who's probably going to be MVP, to make a play. That might be it. It may not be a great game plan. It just might be assignment football. How they beat the Browns was the first play of the game was the trick play, the flea flicker. Then all it was assignment football. They didn't do anything special against the Browns. The Browns, they got behind and panicked and started throwing the ball all over the place. If you remember the last time the Ravens had the 1 seed, they played Tennessee, and Lamar Jackson, for some reason, threw the ball 59 times, and they panicked. If I'm the Houston Texans, I'm taking that type of an approach, and I'm going, let's not do anything crazy. No blitzes, no exotic schemes. We're just going to rush 4. We're going to keep everything in front of us. Yeah, go ahead, dink and dunk all day. You won't beat us deep. Move the ball downfield, kick your field goals, and that's how we'll play. And that's kind of how I see the Texans doing it. And keep in mind, even though C.J. Stroud's a rookie, the touchdown interception ratio, Stroud was better than everybody. He doesn't turn the ball over. Just hey, look, you don't have to score 40 to win this game. Don't turn the ball over. Dink and dunk. Let's keep it close. And that's how the Texans win. So yeah, it was such a damn shame. Yeah, it was such a damn shame. Yeah. Talk about how fast time passes. Yesterday, I heard you're kidding. Holy shit. Jerome Bettis Jr. is oh my God. You know, it's funny. God, I felt that way. Marvin Harrison, Frank Gore Jr. I remember. I don't know why. I know he played at Stanford, and I don't know if he transferred. He stopped playing. I don't know the story, but I remember Barry Sanders' kid played running, got accepted to Stanford as a running back, and yeah. Oh God, I had no idea. Oh God. I mean, I watched Joey Porter. Joey Porter was one of my all-time favorite players to play and watch play, and then watching his son play for the Steelers. If Jerome Bettis Jr. plays for the Steelers, I'm going to shit myself. Oh my God. Oh God, yeah. Not that I know of, Perry. Not that I know of, but no, I don't think they have any real injury issues. And I know it's such a weenie answer that I'm giving you, but that's really all it is. All it is that between Green Bay and San Francisco, which team establishes to run better? It's going to be McCaffrey against Aaron Jones. If AJ Dillon comes back from injury, that could be huge because they still have San Francisco, even though they're really good against the run, they like to play the wide nine. They don't like to stuff the middle, and if you get that 1-2 combo going, that's going to be key. If either one of these teams, here's the deal: if Green Bay gets down early and becomes one-dimensional, despite as how good Jordan Love's playing, I think that's a problem. If San Francisco gets down early, I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think that they would still keep with their game plan. So that's kind of the difference. When we weren't playing the Steelers, Bettis and Slash was so much fun to watch. It was so funny. I remember I was driving over the road, and I was in Chicago when Slash signed with the Bears, and they had, I was listening to sports radio in Chicago, and they're talking about mini camp, and they said that so what happened is Chicago signed Slash to a big time deal. He was going to be a starting quarterback. They finally got their guy, and I remember the very first mini camp, they were like, "Yeah, this guy can't play." We signed a dud. Like what they did in Seattle or what they did in Pittsburgh with the Slash thing, that was great. We brought him in. He can't play. We're calling, and it was so funny because this was like in April, and this was like in mini camp, and the sports guys were like, "This guy can't play." Like he can't. It was so funny because I talked about earlier how there's like external. Cordell Stewart worked in Pittsburgh, but you put him on a different team in Chicago, and it was a disaster. I mean, just a complete disaster. And that's just the way it is. In Pittsburgh, he was dangerous. Had a great, but you know what? They also kind of knew that it wasn't the long-term answer too. So, by the way, Cordell Stewart in college was so much fun to watch. God, the Buffaloes, Rashad Salam won the Heisman Trophy. I actually wrote a paper that Steve McNair should have won Heisman instead, but Rashad Salam, really good. Charles Johnson, who now stars for the VSiN network. It's like the Vegas Sports Gambling Insiders, and he does a fantastic job. If you like, I started following him on social media. He was on that team. Michael Westbrook was on that Buffaloes team. They got it. But Slash was a lot of fun. Yeah, the Lions won the last playoff game. Do you think Lamar can get the ball to OBJ on a consistent basis? To be honest with you, it's kind of funny because I don't know if OBJ is really the guy that's going to have the biggest impact in this game. I'm looking at Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews is coming back. Rashad Bateman, I can never remember his name. They got so many other receivers besides OBJ. OBJ is going to be an afterthought. I don't think he's the guy you really got to lean on. That other tight end who played receiver at Coastal Carolina, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's the backup tight end, the Mark Andrews. I'm drawing a complete blank. They don't need OBJ to be a big time difference. They really don't. They really, really don't. If he has a big game, it's just icing on the cake. I don't think OBJ really needs to be a big factor. I think some of these other guys do. Remember, they also signed Dalvin Cook. I mean, how great would it be if he produces like the Pro Bowl running back with only a few weeks' time? To be honest with you, I think Cook may have a much bigger impact than OBJ. And here's another thing that might be fun. When Cook's in there, do you trust him in pass protection? I mean, he's a veteran running back, but he's only been there for a couple weeks. So, but I don't think OBJ is really that big of a deal. I'm kind of curious if Joe Alt, when he went to Notre Dame, he went as a tight end and then just grew. He's like 325 now. We'll have to see what the report is. Terrell Owens, when he entered Middle Tennessee State, he went on track scholarship. He is 6 foot 170. There's a lot of tackles in the NFL that went to college as tight ends. There's a lot of guys that, hey, I'm 6'1", 180, and then the next year they're 6'3", 240. And I'm kind of wondering, I mean, because I watched Bettis play at Notre Dame, and I was like, oh my God, I think Notre Dame listed him at like 250. And I think that might have been accurate, but like Bettis was like they called him like 6 foot or 6'1". In reality, it was like 5'10", but had some really good speed. For the thing about Bettis, which was really impressive, was not just his power, but he was really fast. He had really good feet. He was really fast. But a guy like I didn't know this. This is literally the first time I've heard this. I wonder if a guy like Bettis goes into college at 6'2", let's just say 180. Let's just have some fun and call it 180. Don't be surprised if year 2 he's 6'3", 205. Don't be surprised he's 6'3", 205, especially when your dad's 250. I heard that after he got done playing, he ballooned up to like 300. Look at Barry Sanders now and tell me he's not at least 250. Turnover EPA for all remaining playoff teams: Ravens 49.9, Bills 48.5. All above that one win of 35 points. The only negative team is Kansas City 42. Wow. Keep in mind college players. Joe Alt entered as a tight end. The Chiefs drafted Eric Fisher, number 1 overall when Andy Reid first arrived in 2013. He was a 240-pound tight end. He was a 2-star tight end. There's a guy, he played left tackle for the Chiefs. He went to University of Miami. I wish I could remember his name. He is the lead of the Players Association. And Alonzo Highsmith, who played running back for the Canes and in the NFL, he was the tight ends coach. And he goes, listen, at the time they had Jeremy Shockey, Kellen Winslow Jr., and another tight end who's going to play. And he goes, listen, you're good enough that you can play in the NFL for 12 years. But if you put on 30 pounds and move to tackle, you'll make an additional $30 million. And he did that. In his NFL career, he made something like $60 to $80 million. It's not uncommon for guys to just grow. People have growth spurts. After my senior year of high school, I was 5'6", 130. And I came back from boot camp. I was 5'8", 160, and Like, it's funny because they take they take like the Army yearbook pictures before and after. Mine. I was one of the few dummies that smiled. I was 17. I didn't know any better. There was like 3 or 4 guys that looked completely different by the end of boot camp. One dude told me he lost like 40 pounds. It was just crazy. And this was just 2 months. A school like Notre Dame, they showed some clips of the Georgia facility. It is insane. I'm told Alabama's is just as good. Michigan has a world-class facility. At one point in time, remember the owner of Nike used to like throw tons of money. He said he went to Oregon. Oregon had like one of the top sports facilities or sports medicine facilities in the world. Like just outside of just college athletics. It was just something crazy because Phil Knight just, he just like threw all sorts of money at Oregon. He went there. So I watched that Air documentary not too long ago. It was okay. But college players change positions all the time. And it's not uncommon for a kid to enter, seriously, 6'2", 180. It would not surprise me if he ends up being next year like 6'4", 210 or 220. It happens. Guys have growth spurts, especially when I look at some of these dad who's probably 300 pounds right now. Jerome Best probably 300 pounds right now, right? And then you're 180, but your dad's 300. Yeah, you can probably put on some weight. And it wouldn't surprise. It's weird, but players change positions. Take a look at Brian Urlacher played safety and punter. Had a weird growth spurt before the draft, and they're like, "Can you play linebacker?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll try." Don't be surprised he may end up at linebacker. I mean, you never know. But that's kind of cool to know. Perry asked a great question. Do you think the 49er window is closing or about to close? Should they go all in if they lose this year? Well, they gave up a 3rd round pick for Chase Young, who's only going to be there, from until they leave, and then he's going to hit free agency, and there's no way he comes back. I'd have to look through, but the one thing about the 49ers is that this is a team that's aging at certain positions, and they have very little depth. Plus, I mean, you got to pay Brock Purdy at some point in time. You have to give Brock Purdy a boatload of money. And when that happens, everything changes. Because you gave McCaffrey a lot of money. You gave Deebo Samuel a lot of money. You gave George Kittle a lot of money. You gave Trent Williams is 36, and he's one of the highest paid left tackles in football. And this team is drastically different. That 3-game losing streak was without Trent Williams. That's how important he is to this team. He's going to be 37, and he's probably your best player. That's not a lie. Trent Williams is probably your best player. He's going to be 37 if he's not 37 already. I think a lot of teams are going to look at what the Rams did and trade down and keep trading down and litter their team with lower draft picks. I think the Rams ended up with like 15 draft picks, including one pride. Puka Nacua. Okay, so Puka Nacua. And so Puka Nacua. So, I mean, he was a 5th round pick. Their starting tight end was a 6th round draft pick. Or they'd use like multiple tight ends. One of them, anyway, he was a guy I was kind of eyeballing out of Clemson. Really liked this kid. I was kind of hoping the Chiefs would grab him in the later rounds. The Rams did, and he got a couple catches in the game against Detroit. But they're in a tough situation because they don't have that 3rd round pick. San Francisco's team that may have to trade down and try to follow what the Rams did and litter their team with tons of players. That's like the most common. I've heard 5'10", I've heard 260, but yeah, somewhere in there. So like when you're 252 and your son's 178 entering college, yeah, you can put on some weight. If they don't win it all, here's the deal: whether they win it all or not, they have to make some changes. How long is Trent Williams going to be the best left tackle in football? And he is. I mean, he's going to be 37. You gave Deebo Samuel a lot of money, but he misses anywhere from 4 to 8 games a year. Brandon Ayuk's going to be a free agent, and you're not going to keep him. I don't think it matters. They have to make some tough choices after this year. I think they went kind of all in this year because Brandon Ayuk's going to be gone. Chase Young's going to be gone. They have to make some tough decisions because Brock Purdy, sooner or later, you have to give him a lot of money. So what do you do? I mean, they're gonna make some. Lions are going to be a fun team this offseason. 49ers are going to be a fun team this offseason. Chargers could lose several big names. The Saints are going to lose a lot of players. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Did you see the Falcons reportedly interviewed Jim Harbaugh? Did I miss you? No, I actually didn't know that. I've been hearing a lot of Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers, which is really, really interesting. But I did not see Harbaugh interviewed with the Falcons. If I'm in Atlanta, I would definitely talk to Harbaugh. I know that they talked with Belichick, but if I'm in Atlanta, if I'm in Atlanta, I'm reaching out to everybody and anybody, and I'm looking at big names. I predicted Vrabel would go there, but I'm looking at big names. They went with Arthur Smith, who was the offensive coordinator with the Titans. Not really a big name. Well respected around NFL circles, but I think that they want a guy who had success in the NFL because if you're Arthur Blank, the owner, you're probably thinking along the same lines I'm thinking of, in that this is the most appealing place out of the other 7 job openings that are available. I think Atlanta is the most appealing because you can come in and you can win now. And you can also set yourself up to be the dominant team in the NFC South for the next, for the rest of the decade. I mean, so if I'm Arthur Smith, I absolutely interview Harbaugh. I didn't know that though, and when I heard Belichick interviewed, that makes a lot of sense. I question Harbaugh working with anybody. I really do. I mean, he butted heads with people at Michigan, had problems with people at San Francisco. I'll be honest with you. I know that there was problems between Harbaugh and Pete Carroll with Stanford and USC. And then there was problems. I know Richard Sherman, who played for Harbaugh at Stanford, said that Harbaugh trashed him, and that's the reason why he fell all the way to the 5th round, because he felt like he should have been, drafted much higher. But so he had some beef with Harbaugh. So I can say, I'm going to use that as an example, but I don't know from what I've heard, like Harbaugh and Stanford worked perfect, but San Francisco, Michigan, Harbaugh's butted heads. I think Harbaugh's just a guy who's just kind of hard to get along with. By the way, ex-players, there's not a lot of them were like, the practices were brutal. It was hard to, get along. It's hard to like the guy, but, we win. So, it's not a ideal. I think Harbaugh, no matter where he goes, and this includes staying at Michigan, he's just going to butt heads with people. Can they? No matter who he goes with, he's going to have problems. Keys, where do you think Harbaugh would be at? Oh, that's a great question, Keys. Perry, my opinion, I think he stays at Michigan. But Keys, if you're still in the chat, man, where do you think Harbaugh will be at? Do the 49ers take a quarterback in the draft? I don't know the contract deals of Sam Darnold, but he played pretty well, and he's got a lot of. If I'm San Francisco, I do not, because I need players elsewhere, but I keep Darnold because they were really happy with Darnold that they decided that, Trey Lance doesn't belong here. So I would not. Will they? You never know. I don't know if Sam Darnold's a free agent or not. If Sam Darnold's a free agent, he's a guy that might be interesting to have, but I don't know his contract deal off the top of my head. I'm going to pay attention to that. I'm going to look that up before draft comes around, because if that's the case, you have to sign a quarterback, and that's going to be a problem. Do I think they take a quarterback in the draft? No, because they gave up a 3rd-round pick. So you can get Chase Young, and they're going to lose some players. They're going to lose Chase Young. They're going to lose Brandon Ayuk. They got some age. They also had some injuries. I would not, if I was San Francisco, unless you get like a 6th, 7th round guy again. But I wouldn't do that. I would just say, look, Brock, you're a guy. We're going to give you a lot of money, just not this year. And if I'm his agent, and if I'm Brock Purdy's agent, I'm knocking on San Francisco's door and saying, hey, look, Joe Burrow got 275 and Joe Burrow's injured. That's all I'm saying. And it'll be interesting to see. That's going to be a fun story. But I would not recommend it, but we'll see what they do. CJ4Y, do you think the Rams a better team than the Bucs? Absolutely. That's why I like Detroit in this game. I think the Rams are a better team than the Bucs. I don't even think that's a question, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the Rams are better coached. I think they have a better quarterback. No disrespect to Baker Mayfield. There are some differences. I think the Bucs as a defensive team as a whole is better. But that's pretty much it. But yeah, here's the deal. If the Rams flip the Rams in Philly, I think the Rams would have won that game. So yeah. I don't. By the way, I don't know who this is. It's probably somebody very popular. It stands out to me because I don't know who it is. Is it a Dragon Ball Z character? I don't know. But it's kind of cool looking. And I don't recognize it, but I love the name CJ4Y. That's pretty badass. So listen, if you're not a subscriber, please do. And then below on my link, social media, please check out my picks video. It's a good one. Where do you think Kellen Moore will end up as the offensive coordinator, or do you think he'll take a year off? It'll have to wait and see which teams sign who where. I don't know what the Raiders offensive coordinator position is. I think they hired an interim, but if I was the Raiders, I'd ask Kellen Moore, hey, do you want to come over here? I think that would be a good move. The Chargers, they may want to keep Kellen Moore. I mean, it's funny because I keep saying Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback, and I get people disagree with me. I'm like, look, he's had a new offensive coordinator every single year he's been in the league. If I'm the Chargers, I'm like, hey, look, I'm just going to keep you. We'll bring in a new head coach. And this happens sometimes, and sometimes it creates friction, and sometimes it works. But you don't have to, if you bring in a head coach, you can decide that your offensive coordinator is going to be there. It's actually pretty common that you keep a coach or two, and you don't just bring in a new coach and a new coaching staff. Now, with John Harbaugh, or Jim Harbaugh, I'm sorry, I get the two mixed up. If Jim Harbaugh comes to the Chargers, is that going to fly? Probably not. Probably not. Kellen Moore and Jim Harbaugh may, both these guys, former quarterbacks, they may meet and get along, be on the same page. I don't see it. But if you bring in a defensive-minded coach, Lou Anarumo, who coached the Bengals, I think it'd be a perfect fit for this team. Then I would definitely keep Kellen Moore as my offensive coordinator. We'll have to wait and see when everything settles. But if I'm the Chargers, if you bring in, well, keep in mind, Brandon Staley was a defensive-minded coach, and I don't think Kellen Moore is a Staley hire, by the way. But we'll have to wait and see. If you win, players will not. If you win, players will put up. Okay, so if you win, players will put up with a not players friend. Yeah, exactly. And Harbaugh. So here's the deal: Harbaugh in the NFL was not a players friendly guy. I was told by like players across the board at Michigan love him, but in the NFL, he treated it more business like. How he is in college and how he is in the pros apparently is night and day. And because it's different, he rubbed people differently. There's lots of coaches that players really. Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw did not get along at all, but there's other players that thought Chuck Noll was like the greatest guy in the world. And it's funny because there's a lot of players that also thought Terry Bradshaw was a great guy, and they thought Chuck Noll was a great guy. But different personalities clash with people at times. Harbaugh's a guy I just think naturally clashes with people. It's just what are you willing to put up with? That's just my impression. I think Harbaugh gets along great with. I haven't heard any Michigan players, and it's kind of rare for a player. They're like, oh, I don't like my coach. I mean, it's kind of rare. You usually don't see that. The only time if you watch Last Chance U, one of the favorites trashed the coach after he signed with the college, and he's like, I didn't like the guy. I remember he was also on Hard Knocks with the Raiders, and Gruden cut him like instantly because like he was supposed to go. He missed practice because his foot hurt, and instead of going to the trainer, he just blew it off. And Gruden's like, "Fuck this! Get Last Chance out of here." And I thought it was a smart move. I know he signed with Baltimore's practice squad. I don't know what happened to the dude, but yeah, you're right. You're right. And Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if you remember this. Le'Veon Bell said Andy Reid said something to him. He's like, I'll never play for Andy Reid again. It's like, what? Andy Reid? And they asked Andy Reid. Andy Reid's like, oh, I like coaching him. He was a joy. I don't know what happened. So, do you think the Bucs will come out flat or not be ready for this game? No, I think they'll be ready. I think they'll be ready. It's just that the Eagles were so flat. The Eagles just didn't look like the Eagles just looked defeated out there. Like nobody was really animated. Nobody was really, really ready to go. And you're not going to get that in Detroit. So do I think the Bucs come out flat? No, I don't. I think they're going to come out ready. I think that they're going to fight. It's just I think Detroit's going to be ready. They're not going to come out flat. Is there a possibility Detroit's like, hey, we want a playoff game, party, celebrate, we want a playoff game, everything's good, we're good to go. That is a possibility. That is a possibility. But do I think the Bucs come out flat? No, I don't. I think that they come out ready to play. I think Detroit's more talented. I think they're going to come out motivated. I think the fans are going to be crazy. I didn't look at it. I don't know what Tampa Bay's home versus road record is. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not, but I think playing at home helped. I think playing in Detroit won't. I think the crowd's really I really do. I think Detroit, and here's the thing is that this is a Sunday game. Let's say the Packers win and you have the opportunity to host the NFC Conference Championship game in Detroit with a win. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? I picked 49ers. Okay. I picked the 49ers. But I would love to see Green Bay win. I'm pulling for the Packers. Like I would not mind if my picks were 3-1 and it was the Packers game I get wrong. I would not mind that one bit. I would not mind that one bit. But I do think the Bucs come ready to play. But here's the deal, though. I just think the Bucs are too pass oriented, and I think that there could be a sack or two. I think the inability to run the ball, which I predict will happen, will be the problem. So, do you think Philly players turn out the head coach or just didn't like the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator? I don't know, man. I really don't know. They did a video, the NFL Network did. I love their top 10 lists. Top 10 collapses of all time. And they showed teams like I think Miami at one time was 9-2. They lost the last 5, ended up not making the playoffs. I think that was number 1. I really have no idea. Now, a lot of it was injuries. But I just have a hard time. Part of it was schedule, part of it was injuries. But I know against the game against Tampa, they did not look ready. Like there was no enthusiasm, there was no emotion, nothing. And that would bother me. And I don't know who's to blame. Before I came on, I saw a report. The Eagles beat writer who reports for ESPN. He's been around forever. Sal Antonio. He said he's reporting that there's going to be massive changes massive changes in the Eagles organization. I don't think it's going to be Sirianni. I think it's going to be the offensive and defensive coordinator. But I think if they're smart, they bring back Frank Reich. I personally would do everything I could to pay Wink Martindale, the former Giants defensive coordinator. I would pay anything and everything. And I'd even say you're the assistant head coach. If Sirianni fucks up, you're in charge. I would bring Wink Martindale and maybe a new offensive coordinator. Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Philly, also interviewed with Atlanta, which I find surprising because I thought that the offense took a step backwards. So the Lions need run the ball early and often on the Bucs. Well, the thing is with Tampa Bay, I think their weakness is that you can throw the Bucs like to play a lot of zone, but you can throw the ball. That defense is built to stop the run. So what I'd like to see Detroit do is try to get Gibbs on the outside, but those linebackers are fast. The thing is with Tampa Bay is going to be one-dimensional. Detroit needs to be able to throw the ball and run the ball. The victory against the Rams was a Jared Goff throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has to have a big game. Josh Reynolds had a big game. I don't know. I think Laporta had a touchdown. I could be wrong, but the Lions need to be balanced because the Bucs, they're probably going to have to rely on Baker Mayfield to carry them because the Lions' run defense is really good. Yeah, so. All right, guys, there's a lot of things I really didn't get a chance to go over that I wanted to. Keaton from Keaton Talk Sports is supposed to join me on Friday. I don't have that confirmed yet, and he didn't show up in the chat, but hopefully he will be. He'll come Friday. The week after that, I may have some other guests on. I'm going to try to get more and more guests on. Sometimes it can be kind of a struggle. There were some topics I wanted to go over, but I don't know if you can tell I'm starting to. So what it is that it's I'm sitting right next to a door, And it's an older apartment, and the weather stripping around the door is kind of faded. So like there's kind of like a breeze, and it's like 0 degrees. That's why my nose is stuffing up. During the summer, it's not a problem. Normally, when it's not 0 degrees outside, it's not a problem. But like I'm stuffed up anyway. So my social media is below. My social media is below. You can always DM me on social media. I try to answer any comments that you put in my YouTube video. Please, the link is on the video. Please, please, please watch it. It would mean the world to me. And drop your picks in the comments section if you don't mind. I will be back Friday. I hope everybody has a great week, and I hope to see everybody back on Friday.